Hey everyone! So let's talk about something millions of us cat owners do every single day, probably without even thinking about it. You grab the scoop, fill up the bowl with dry food, and that's that. It just feels normal, right? But what if I told you that simple, everyday habit might have some hidden, long-term consequences for the cats we absolutely adore? We're going to dig into that right now. And this quote, it really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The whole point here isn't to make anyone feel bad. It's really about something we just don't know. The potential harm isn't something you'd notice overnight. It's not obvious at all, and that's exactly why it's so easy to miss. So let's start by unpacking what feels like a totally normal habit.
So yeah, it's a super common mistake. For most of us, feeding our cats dry kibble is just the default setting. I mean, let's be real. It's convenient, it's pretty affordable, and it's literally all over the pet store shelves. It's become such a normal part of having a cat that we almost never stop and ask, hey, is this actually the best thing for them? And that right there is the key. The problem isn't obvious at all. It's not like your cat eats kibble and immediately gets sick. No, it's way quieter than that. Think of it like a slow, quiet buildup, day after day. A diet of only dry food is basically asking your cat's body to constantly adapt to something it was never, ever designed to handle. And that strain, it just builds and builds completely behind the scenes.
Okay, so where does all this trouble really begin? Well, it all starts with something I bet you've noticed. You put out a fresh bowl of water, and your cat just ignores it, right? They barely seem to drink. And believe it or not, there's a really fascinating, deep-seated biological reason for that. This is where we see the big disconnect. You have to remember, our cats are basically tiny desert hunters on the inside. Their ancestors evolved in arid places, where the only water they got was from the prey they ate, mice, birds, that sort of thing. Because their food was full of water, they just never needed to develop a strong, I'm thirsty signal. And get this, your cozy little house cat, they inherited that exact same low thirst drive programming.
And this chart, wow, this really lays it all out. A cat's natural prey is a whopping 75% water. Now look at typical dry food. It's only about 10%. That is a massive, massive moisture gap. And because of that low thirst drive we just talked about, they just aren't programmed to drink enough water from a bowl to make up that huge difference. It's simply not in their nature.
So what does this lead to? It creates a state of constant, low-level dehydration. Your cat is essentially walking around just a little bit dehydrated all the time. This becomes the silent foundation for a ton of other problems down the line. It forces their poor kidneys to work way overtime, trying to conserve every single drop of water. This creates really concentrated urine and puts this quiet but absolutely relentless strain on their entire system. Every single day. Okay, so if all this stuff is happening on the inside, how are we supposed to know, right? Well, the body is pretty smart. It actually starts sending out clues, little signs that are hiding in plain sight, things you might see every day but haven't connected back to what's in their food bowl. All right, let's start with a big one, that extra weight you just can't seem to explain. I know this drives so many loving cat owners crazy. You're so careful, you measure out every single meal, you're not overdoing it on the treats, and yet your cat is still slowly but surely packing on the pounds. It's baffling. You feel like you're doing everything right, so what in the world is going on? Well, the answer really boils down to this one critical term: obligate carnivore. All that means is that cats must eat meat. Their bodies are like high-performance engines designed to run purely on protein and fat. But here's the catch. Most dry foods need a lot of carbs and fillers just to hold those little crunchy shapes together. A cat's body just doesn't know what to do with all those carbs for energy. So it does the only thing it can. It stores them as fat. Okay, next clue. Let's talk about your cat's coat. Their fur isn't just there to look pretty and feel soft. It's actually a direct window into their internal health. Think about it. When the body is struggling nutritionally, the skin and coat are some of the first places it'll start to cut corners. So if you've noticed your cat's coat is a little dull, maybe it feels a bit rough or even greasy, it's so easy to just chalk it up to grooming. But a lot of the time, the real culprit is nutrition. It could be a direct result of that chronic dehydration we've been talking about, or it could be that the essential fatty acids they need for a healthy coat have been damaged or destroyed by the super high heat processing that's used to make dry kibble. Let's shift gears to behavior, because this one is huge. The hunger that just never seems to end. You know what I'm talking about. The cat that's obsessed with the food bowl,
that wakes you up at the crack of dawn meowing for breakfast, the one that inhales their food and then immediately starts begging for more. It's not just them being greedy, I promise. From a biological standpoint, this makes total sense. Think about it. A meal that's high in protein and moisture, like their natural prey, makes them feel full and satisfied. But a meal that's high in carbs and low in moisture, it's kind of like empty calories. It digests super fast and just doesn't send those strong "I'm full" signals to the brain. So you get this vicious cycle where your cat eats, but their body never gets the message that it's actually satisfied. And that leads to that constant nagging hunger. So let's recap for a second. We've got this low-level dehydration, we've got unexplained weight gain, a not-so-great coat, and a cat that's hungry all the time. These are all definitely red flags. But what is it all leading to? What's the real long-term danger that's been building up quietly all this time?
And this is the big one. This is the silent damage. It's the part that, sadly, most of us don't even realize is happening until we're rushing to the emergency vet. All of those things we just talked about, especially the constant dehydration, they all come together to create the absolute perfect storm right inside your cat's urinary system. Let's just walk through this recipe for disaster step by step. First, you have chronic dehydration. That leads to urine that's always super concentrated. Think less like water and more like sludge. This puts a massive strain on the kidneys, day in and day out. And in that concentrated environment, it becomes way too easy for minerals to form into painful crystals and stones, which then causes inflammation and irritation all through their urinary tract. And this is where things get really, really serious. Those crystals and that inflammation can lead to a complete urinary blockage, especially in male cats, and that is a life or death medical emergency. The scary part is, for the owner, it feels like it just happened overnight. But the truth is, the foundation for that catastrophe was being built brick by brick every single day for years. I know, after hearing all that, it's really easy to feel worried, or maybe even a little guilty. But listen, the goal here is absolutely not to scare you. It's all about empowerment. It's about giving you the power that comes from truly understanding your cat's amazing and unique biology, so you can make the best choices for them. And let's be really clear about something. The goal here isn't to demonize all dry food forever. It's not evil. The real danger, the hidden risk, comes from feeding an exclusive diet of only dry food. When that's all they get, day in and day out, that lack of moisture and balance forces their body to constantly compensate, to work harder than it should. And, eventually, any system that's constantly under strain can start to break down. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you go to fill up that food bowl, just pause for a second and look at it with new eyes. Ask yourself, what story is this food bowl telling? Is it telling a story of high moisture, biologically appropriate nutrition that their body was designed for? Or is it telling a story that asks their little body to work overtime every single day just to keep up? Simply understanding that question is the most powerful first step you can take.